Hey everybody! So here we are. We're 3 days away from our big launch. We're going to keep releasing information. As we kind of get closer to Monday morning. Once we hit Monday morning, we're going to do our big reveal. We're going to talk about the entire hierarchy, what's available. Starting Monday, what are we working on, and how you can be a part of it. Whether it's something that's established or something that we're still putting together and finalizing. Everything that we've put together up until this point, we've been working with some of our VIP, some of our Platinum members, Platinum Partner members. And so, like I said, we were originally looking for the first 20 for our Silver program, for our entry-level program. But we've got over 100 people interested so far. I think this morning it was 109. So we've established that the first 100 people are going to get first crack at that, and you're going to be able to help us with things like putting together, materials. We've got an app coming, which is going to be really exciting, and again, that's something that we're building in conjunction with our Platinum partners. It's interesting because a client reached out to me yesterday, and this client happened to be working with consulting in the mental health space. Basically the question was, what kinds of things should I be looking at? What kinds of things should I be thinking about? Using POI's cloud-based technology, preparing for its coaching program and all that. So I was kind of going through my library. The first thing really is going to be one of these guys. You're going to want your DSM-5. You're going to want to start looking at this. This is going to be critical because it's bigger than DSM-4 TR, and you're going to want to get familiar with this. Some of it gets more specific, and a little bit, and elaborates on conditions that we used to think about more simply. So this was interesting to me because the client happened to work in the same space that I studied in. But what we'll do today is we'll go through actually the next piece of this. And so yesterday we talked about monitoring for success, and that required first of all that tasks be centralized, but that also requires a way to look at tasks, whether it's by department or by role. And so monitoring becomes a key aspect here. The next aspect is optimization. I'm going to talk about one part of optimization. Obviously, there's a whole slew of things that in our POI coaching program we go over as a part of optimization. And this is all way before automation, right? So just optimization, we're going to take one feature, and that's coaching. You can think of it as coaching, you can think of it as consulting, you can think of it as mentoring. But one of the things we want to think about is first of all, why do we need it? And how long do we need it for, right? At what point do we say, all right, I've had enough of this, I know where I'm headed, I know where I'm going, and I can stop taking advantage of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then, like I said, each day I'm going to answer a different question. So please keep sending me messages. I'm getting lots of them. I'm going to do my best to get to them. In the future, if you comment on the videos themselves with your questions, I know some of them are a little bit patient specific maybe, so maybe generalize them, change names, things like that. But definitely submit those questions in the comments, and that'll make it a little easier to respond directly to you as opposed to answering every question in these videos. So we'll keep trying to answer videos. We've got videos coming from our Chief Technology Officer, Erez, who's going to be talking about some of the challenges and exciting things that are coming with the launch. But in talking about optimization and coaching, we want to kind of throw back to what we were talking about earlier this week, which was the major neurons in your brain, right? We talked about sensory input neurons, motor neurons, interneurons, and so we're going to focus on those. We're going to kind of leave the glial cells aside for now. But what's interesting about these is that there's a process here, right? So when I learn something new, I take that in, I create a new connection in my brain, I create a new connection that I draw on in the future, and that leads to growth, right? And the important thing to recognize here is that I needed that sensory input in order to get to that growth, right? Without that sensory input, I couldn't have stumbled on that myself without going through a very, very painful process, right? In other words, the sensory input here is direct. right? So we've got two different kinds of sensory input for optimization. One is the going through pain to figure it out. And so you've got the stories of, mentors and coaches who have gone through tremendous hardship in their lives, and that's what led them to kind of the way that they look at the world, and many, many years of study and learning that got them to that kind of growth. So you can go that route, but inexorably what you're going to want is to actually get there faster, get there sooner. And so we really want the direct sensory input, the direct learning. And so that requires that we get input. Now, the way that this works is we do a number of things, right? So we read, we watch videos like this one, we go to seminars, we interact one-on-one with a coach. Perfect example, I was working with a surgeon out in Michigan who sent me an article about a surgeon who was working with a coach for the first time in their lives. And this was a very, very famous surgeon, and didn't realize that he was doing certain things in a non-optimal way, because he had a very high success rate, a very successful surgeon. But just bringing a coach in there who wasn't actually a surgeon, but was educated enough and knew enough about what they were looking at in order to give objective feedback in a way that connected with that doctor, created this kind of growth. And this growth is stepwise, right? Because basically this is all referencing one thing. Because first I need to create a certain level of growth, then I need to continue getting that sensory input so I can continue growing that line. And honestly, you can actually add this here, because every time there's something else that you want to learn, it goes through this same function. At some point, this will gain enough momentum that you'll start to recognize patterns and be able to grow this more quickly and solidify it and strengthen those connections faster. And that's when you want to move to the next thing. Now that process, in mental health, when we talk about talk therapy, right, we talk about the first breakthrough. That's usually the 6-month period, right, the first 6 months. And whenever you commit a client or a patient to care when it comes to talk therapy, one of the basic things that you say is, I need you to commit to coming in at least once a week for the next 6 months. And that's the kind of commitment we're talking about here. I mean, you want to make a tremendous change. That first 6-month period is where you're building that momentum. It's kind of like starting a new workout regimen or a new diet regimen, right? The goal is not to go on a diet so that you fit into clothes for some event. The goal is to actually shift your diet so that you're more healthy on a regular basis. And then you have your one-off cheat days so that you don't go crazy. But it's the same thing here. You need to build that momentum before it can kind of run on its own. And so that process generally will take you up to 6 months to get into that momentum situation, that momentum. And then you move on to the next one. So the question then becomes, how long do I need to go through this kind of iterative process, this repeating process? So the answer there really is, it's ongoing, right? It's a lifelong process, because there's always going to be a new way to connect with your audience. There's going to be new technology. There's going to be new new ways of thinking about problems, and you're going to want to take advantage of those things. One of the things that we do, the think tanking, where we get practice owners and business owners together, and we circle up and we try to solve problems for each other. I mean, that's a very basic way that we implement this kind of thing. But again, that's a one-off. That's a thing that happens periodically. It's like going to a seminar. The thing that creates consistent behavior over time is habit, is creating those patterns of behavior, which takes time. Not only that, but you've got to recognize that you don't only have one pathway here that's happening, right? You've got a million, billion different things that are happening in your brain all at once that you're trying to remember and get good at, right? Whether it's being a good parent, being a good spouse, being a good driver, being a good clinician, being a good, everything that you want to get good at here requires this kind of growth. And so because you're trying to do all these different things, maybe not at the exact same time, but overall at the same time, you're going to want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to build that momentum comfortably so that you're not creating unnecessary stress. So as we get closer here, we talked about optimization today and how that relates to coaching. Like I said, coaching requires a big impetus for change, a build in momentum, and then an overall lifelong process here that doesn't hang on to one coach for your entire life. You might vacillate. You might kind of go between different coaches, different programs, different things to learn different perspectives, different mentalities, right? Kind of like with our program, how we pull in different coaches with different specialties. One of the biggest things that helps people is when, let's say, you're a physical therapist and you get a medical doctor is a part of your think tank or is a part of your coaching network, and they start giving you their perspective. They start telling you how they solve problems, and you may throw out 80% of what they say, but then there's that 20% gold that's in there that you want to take, that you want to benefit from. So that coaching is a lifelong process once you build that momentum, because you're going to keep finding new momentums, new habits, new patterns that you're going to want to build and solidify. So once we talk about optimization, the next one is going to be automation, right? And that's something that's unique to POI. No one else has this today. It's an incredible thing, and the pattern really shows that no one's going to have it because of the way that our technology is built, the way that it's integrated. There's really no other way to have it. So I'm excited to share this with you. Again, leave your comments, message me, ask me questions. I'm going to start every video I can with an answer to your questions. So I look forward to Monday, guys, and your questions.